Nitin Raheja as well with us on the show right now. Nitin, hi, afternoon. We were chatting with Chris Wood earlier today, and he was sounding a little alarmed by, the foreclosures, if they were to get extended, if there is an extended lockdown, and the kind of bearing that they would have on private banks. And more importantly, he was also a little worried about delinquencies actually trickling down to then some of the consumer finance companies. Would you also say that this is a valid concern?
So I think it's a fair point, given the fact that the lockdown persists and continues, and at least till 30th April. Clearly, even if you see the largest consumer finance company in India, which is Bajaj, has mentioned that if that were to persist, earliest they would see a recovery would be by December quarter. So I think the fears of higher delinquencies is a very, very real fear. I think it is reflecting on the valuations of all these players already, and I think they're progressively compressing. I won't be surprised, if the NBFC space, especially the consumer finance NBFC space, they sort of suffer even more because right now they have not been given the dispensation by RBI. So on one hand, they have to keep on paying the interest to the banks and the bondholders, while at the other hand, they are not going to get any, they're going to give a moratorium to their end customers. So I think the space is clearly under pressure, and I think for the next 6 months, the entire financial space will remain under pressure. The players who will do well will be these larger banks, and I think the private sector banks have corrected quite a bit. And almost, if you take Axis and ICICI, they're trading close to book. HDFC has come down to close to historic low valuations. Kotak is also compressing gradually. So I think in the short term, there is pressure, but I think in the longer term, or even if you take 6 months, these guys will come back far stronger because they are using this to actually grow a significant CASA franchise. And, it's more out of fear that people are actually moving money and consolidating their savings and deposits in some of these well-established larger banks.
Right. CK, to you then, I was wondering if Abha is taking over. CK, to you, and I wanted to ask you that before we snap the connection about what you're seeing. Abha, you want to take that over?
Yes, sure. Grappling with technology from a makeshift studio or control room this time around, as we're all in lockdown currently. We've got some of the stocks in action as well. Interesting move on Z today, Nitin. How do you read into that, given that at first glance I'm not seeing any immediate trigger, but the stock's definitely seeing huge volatility?
Because I'm sort of lost you in the connection.
Okay, Nitin, sure. I was wondering, apart from the others that we're seeing a dip in today, Z is also standing out. That's another one where we're actually seeing, volatility come in. How do you read into that?
So I think the Z has a concern more over this new investment that they're looking to make, which, in my view, is a pretty brave step considering that the stock has been under tremendous pressure, with regard to the promoter debt, off balance sheet debt, and so on and so forth. And on top of this, you're seeing this another commitment that they've made to one of their subsidiary companies in terms of supporting it. And I think that's where why people that is something which is adding to the pressure which already the stock was under, and bringing back volatility. In fact, at one level, people were starting to look at Z purely from a valuation perspective, but I think this development has spooked investors once again.
Okay, from the pharma pack, which of the heavyweights are you keen on right now? From a Dr. Reddy's to a Lupin to a Cipla, everything's been on the move, and I'm specifically asking from some of the bigger names in particular where you see more of the opportunity.
Right now, it seems to be that pharma has become a consensus trade, and everybody you see is talking about ramping up pharma in their portfolios. And I think it's just primarily got to do with the fact that, in my view, in such times, pharma seems to be the space where people feel, that, oh, well, this is a non-discretionary item, its consumption will continue. However, if you really look at it from a pure business perspective, nothing really has changed for most of these pharma companies in this last, 1 month with regard to whether their plants were under compliance norms, with regard to the pricing pressure in the US market, and so on and so forth. But we've sort of seen a run up. Surely there are a few pharma companies who will do very well in this scenario. And if I were to really take among the larger ones, I would sort of look at Sun more than anyone.
Nitin, would it really matter the earnings right now, or is it only the visibility and commentary on what these companies actually see going forward that's critical? Because the quarterly earnings are going to be the previous 3 months.
The fact that most companies lost about 15 days of earnings. However, what will probably impact is the impact these 15 days have had. For example, we heard about Godrej Consumer talking about quarterly numbers being down in the mid-teens, but that the corresponding impact on profitability is far larger for the quarter. So I think there is one scope where you could possibly have some negative surprise emanating from quarterly earnings, and that would sort of go across many companies. I think, but clearly, this year is virtually dusted and gone by. Most people have discounted. I think most people will be looking for some sort of, let's say, hand-holding or comfort or guidance or whatever from companies in terms of how they see their businesses coming back, by what period they see their businesses coming back, and what are some of the strategies that some of the proactive companies have put in place to exploit this situation to sort of improve their market share and profitability. I think this earnings season is going to be more about looking for the commentary from managements rather than the earnings that have gone by.
All right, let's also go across to Ruchi. She has more exclusive reports with her. Ruchi, what's the latest?
Saturday that we told our viewers that the government is looking at opening several industries in a graded fashion over the next couple of days. We are likely to hear from the Prime Minister also tomorrow morning on what is the road ahead for the Indian economy for almost 1.3 billion people who are under lockdown. But even as we do that, we're given to understand that DGCA, that is the civil aviation regulator, has had internal communication with all airlines as well to be ready for flight resumption over the days to come. DGCA has asked airlines to make the necessary arrangement for social distancing during, for planes, for transit vehicles, and for boarding counters as well. We're given to understand that there is a big concern that once the flights are asked to resume, there's going to be a massive rise in prices as well. I'm given to understand that DGCA has considered capping the prices and may also airlines to not profiteer much from the ticket sales. Having said that, this could be a much needed relief coming in for the aviation sector. We're given to understand that aviation sector may be allowed to operate with about 30% capacity over the days to come. We will be hearing from the Home Ministry on whether they've given a go-ahead to the aviation sector over the next few days. But having said that, Aviation Ministry is in favor of full sanitization of planes, pre-boarding and deboarding, and have also asked airlines to give them a stock of all the preparations on social distancing that have been done over the last 1 week. Having said that, this is going to be an important development. The airline sector so far is almost struggling because they have not been allowed to fly for a very long time. But I'm given to understand that domestic flight resumption will happen over the next couple of days, and the Civil Aviation Ministry, the DGCA, that is the regulator, as well as Home Ministry and the Prime Minister's office are working very closely on this plan.
Thank you for that, Ruchi. Nitin, we all know the state of affairs for aviation. While we've got crude prices, of course, one benefit, the current scenario, how do you see this impacting demand going forward? Demand as well as pricing, because it's unlikely, I mean, this is speculation, but it's unlikely that people will want to travel immediately. On the other hand, airlines are readying with spaced out seating. Not sure what pricing they'll go for, whether it'll actually be higher because there are fewer seats or lower in order to attract people to travel. But what's your outlook then on some of these aviation names?
So I think aviation is going to take a longer time. It's going to sort of gradually limp back. You're right. I mean, with social distancing being the norm, at least in the next, I would say, few months, I think airlines are going to be, focusing on ensuring that you don't really have to sort of pick up tickets at the counter, and most of it will be e-ticketing. However, you will have to sort of go through normal security procedures and see. So if you are going to have an airline flying, you understand. From an airline perspective, most of its costs are fixed in nature, right? So what it pays to the airports in terms of parking charges, its staff costs, and it ultimately in terms of if they can carry an X number of people, and it's a load factor which determines the profitability. So if you're going to work at a much reduced load, a same flight flying from one destination to the other is going to have low number of people, which means either ticket prices will have to go up, or the government will have to significantly reduce duties elsewhere because it's a highly taxed sector. Whether it's in the form of lower charges that they pay at airports, or in terms of lower excise on jet fuel and so on and so forth, to make good for that if they don't want airline prices to go up. But clearly there is going to be a reluctance, on the part of most flyers to fly, and only the most, urgent need-based flying will take place. And so I would think that, either they will have to come up with a package to help the airlines in terms of their cost structure, or, enable them otherwise to reprice their tickets. If they try to put a cap on tickets without doing the other, airlines are going to be in more trouble. In fact, they're going to incur more losses on a continuous basis.
All right, Nitin, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us. Everyone waiting to really see how things pan out, what really is going to be the, impact. I think we'll only be able to measure the extent of the impact clearly once this is all over.